Hey, how's it going? It's Isaac Schade. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to play chords associated with the key of G. I've had several people say to me, "Hey Isaac, I love your videos, they help me out a lot, but I don't really know how to play guitar that well. Maybe sometimes I don't know how to finger some of the chords that you're showing me." So this video will teach you how to do basically all the chords that you'll need when we're playing a song in G, and I'll also do videos for E and A and C and several other key signatures. So we better start at the beginning and learn a G chord. The G chord that I most basically play is I have 3 different fingers on the 3rd fret. My middle finger is on the 3rd fret E string, my ring finger is on the 3rd fret B string, and my pinky finger is on the 3rd fret E string. Now when I'm doing this, I'm kind of flattening this middle finger out a little bit so that the little fat part, this little part right here, is deadening the A string. I'm not pushing it in so that it sounds, but it's just resting on it, so there's no noise to it, okay? So there's that. Now you can also take your index finger on the 2nd fret A string to get that B, and in that case you don't flatten your middle finger, you kind of arch it so that that can get in there. Okay. Now if you're asked to play a G over B chord, and that means you're playing a G chord with a B in the bass, and to do that I keep my ring and my pinky the same there on the 3rd fret B and E strings, index finger on that 2nd fret A string for the B, but you don't want that E string to sound, so I just lightly place my middle finger on that string, not hard enough that it's pressing it, but just so that it's touching it so that it won't sound. And there's your G over B. You want to get that B bass really going there. So here's the difference between those. Okay, that's important sometimes when you're changing chords. Actually 2 more ways to play a G chord. Keep your pinky finger where it is, 3rd fret E string. Ring finger is the one up here on the E string 3rd fret. Middle finger on the A string 2nd fret, and that's a G chord. That's actually the first one I ever learned how to play. And then you can, if you need to play a G suspended, you take your index finger and put it on the 1st fret B string. Great. Now one more form I'll show you. If you need to play, you can, if you're doing bar chords like this, you bar all 6 strings on the 3rd fret with your index finger. Use your thumb behind the neck of the guitar for support. Middle finger on the 4th fret G string, pinky on the 5th fret D string, and ring finger on the 5th fret A string. And that's another G chord. So that's a whole bunch of ways to play G. Alright, the next chord, if we're going up G, is an A. Now the 2nd chord in a key signature is always minor. So the A in the key of G will always be a minor. And that's a very simple chord to play. A basic A minor is like this. You have your middle finger on the D string 2nd fret, your ring finger on the G string 2nd fret, and your index finger on the B string 1st fret. And that's your basic A minor. If you want to play an A minor 7th, you can just take off your ring finger. There you go. Now, a way I like to play A minor a lot when I'm switching from a G to an A minor, or just to keep the consistency of that, the ring and the pinky down on the B and E strings, which I like to do just about any time I'm playing chords in the key of G, is just keep those and then add your index finger on the 2nd fret D string. And that's a variation on an A minor. So if you're changing from a G, you just go G, A minor like that. And then if you're walking up to a G over B, you know, you just move that index finger up 1 string. And that'll bring us to the B, which is the 3rd note of the G scale. And it's always minor as well. So a lot of times you'll hear a B minor, But with today's worship songs, the most common way you'll hear the B is the G over B chord that I taught you when playing the G, where it's a G chord, but you want to hear the B in the bass. Okay? That brings us next to a C, which is the fourth note in the G scale, and the fourth note is a major chord. So a C major is played like this: your index finger on the second fret B string, middle finger on the, first fret B string for your index finger, second fret D string with your middle, and third fret A with your ring. That's your basic C chord. Now, the way I like to play a C when I'm playing in the key of G is, remember this G chord? Okay, well, you keep your ring and pinky the same down there, and just take your middle finger from the E string and move it down to the A string. And again, just like with that G where you're muting the A string, on this C, you're muting the D string with it. So, that looks like this. It just keeps the consistency of those two notes down there at the bottom. Okay? Great. Next is the fifth note in the G scale, which is a D, and the fifth note is always major as well. So you've got your D chord, which is your index finger on the second fret, G string, your ring finger on the third fret B string, and your middle finger on the second fret E string. Up close, that looks like this. Okay, and you only want to hit the only strings you want to hit are the D string, the G, the B, and the E. Great. And sometimes you'll need to add an F sharp bass. So to do that, you wrap your thumb around the top of the neck and just put it on the second fret E string there. So you keep your D chord the same and just add that thumb right there, because that's a nice lead into a G chord a lot of times. Another way to play that D over F sharp is, if you're not comfortable wrapping that thumb around the top, you can take your index finger and put it up there, second fret E string, middle finger replaces the index finger on the second fret G string, and then you'll add your pinky on the third fret E string. So that's also a D over F sharp. But the reason I like to do it with the thumb is because then you can have a D chord or a D suspended. And you'll notice with the D chords you can play around with your middle finger and pinky a lot. Do that and just see what sounds you can get with your pinky on the third fret, or neither of those with the E string open. That'll be some fun. Okay, now the next chord is the number 6 chord in the G scale, which is an E, and the 6th note is always minor. So we're playing an E minor. Okay, now I like to, again, keep my ring and my pinky down there on the third fret B and E strings, and the basic E minor is your index finger is on the second fret A string, and your middle finger is on the second fret D string, and that's an E minor. But again, to keep the consistency of those two notes at the bottom, I like to do that. So that's the E minor that I play. Up close, it's like this. Okay, now rarely in the key of G will you hear an F sharp chord, any type of F sharp chord played by itself. Usually you're just going to get a D over F sharp. So we'll not worry about that. Okay, so you've got a G, an A minor, a G over B, or a B minor, a C, a D, an E minor, and a D over F sharp. And that takes you back to G. So there you go. That should be pretty helpful to you with playing G chords. Thanks for checking in, and we'll talk to you next time.